Thank you, ma'am. It's an honor to be here with you. Uh, all that madam has said is not my specialization. These are areas where I have worked for some time. That is all. And after two beautiful pieces of presentations, I don't think if these match the tenor of those, because this is slightly different, and we are wanting to talk to you about regulation now. In this session on sustainability, I felt that technology is very important. Technology is very important, but compliance and governance are, I think, a little more important than technology. Because all of us know it. Yesterday only we went for dinner. We know what is lacking. We see our rivers, we see them polluted, we know what is lacking. It is not that you do not have technology to achieve these standards. It is that you lack the will to achieve those standards. That is where I would like to do it. We have we have friends from industry, and we've got students also. The purpose today is to sensitize you on the environmental compensation and penalty regime, so that you can understand it better, and so that when it comes on you, you can at least analyze. I will try to give you both. I will try to give you the responsibilities, and I will give you. I'd like to give you the rights also. How what you should look into. So. Okay. Now, gentlemen, India has a very robust regulatory mechanism in place. But as I told you, what we lack is governance. And the developer's response is very important. What happens is you get a piece of paper, you get a consent from the State Pollution Control Board, you get an environmental clearance, and when it comes to you with about 100 conditions, what you do is you tend to, your general thing is you tend to keep it in the drawer and you just leave it there. And next year when it is about to expire, when the consent is about to expire, you call your consultant and tell him, look, my consent is going to expire, now get it renewed. So the consultant starts work on it, and this is what is bad. What is required is that the moment you get your consent or your EC, I have been suggesting people, you divide those consent conditions into groups. And for example, you have 5 managers or 10 managers, apart from the environmental managers. Whoever, you have 10 managers, give each 10 conditions, that these are 10 conditions that you have to take care of during the next year. And let them do it. So, earlier when I joined the Pollution Control Board in somewhere around 1979, at that moment of time, sir, the pollution costs were an externality. Whenever we were wanting to appraise an industrial project for financing, the cost benefit analysis was done basically on the capital cost and the operating cost of plant, building and machinery. Environment and pollution control machinery was nowhere included, sir. And it was the name, Mr. Kamyotra also joined the board by that time, I think. So in those initial days when we used to ask people, ki bhai, I cannot grant you consent because you do not have a effluent treatment plant, they would say, sir, give us some time. They did not know of the responsibility that they have to provide for an effluent treatment plant. So then we introduced what you call the concept of NOC, that was an administrative order. Then that NOC served to tell you what you have to do for environment, and then we linked those NOCs to the licensing mechanism. We told our organization in pickup or the financing organization that whenever you are appraising a project or whenever you are granting a license, a loan, kindly examine whether they have a consent, the NOC or not. It is only in 1988 that this NOC was formalized into what you have today, the consent to establish and to consent to. So environmental management costs were not considered, and apart from the regulatory mechanisms, there were many mechanisms which were being used world over. One was this scheme in Indonesia called Proper. What they did was they did not have a very huge administrative machinery. So what they did, they asked all the offices to come together, and they went to the industry, and based on performance, they color coded the industry. Red, orange, green, red, black, like this. The worst performers for black, and there was no impact. Then suddenly one officer said, look here, we are going to make this list public. The moment they said that we are going to make this list public, there was a 50% added compliance. So this is one instrument. Then we, in my state of Uttar Pradesh, we performed an environmental performance rating for distillery sector. We involved almost about 40 distilleries there. And we found that if the benchmark was not the standard set by the Pollution Control Board, the benchmark was the best achievable that you could do. And we found that those industries which were good achievers. Now, if the bad achievers tried to achieve only up to the level of the good achievers, the sector could improve by about 200 crores of wealth they could generate. You don't have to do according to the standards prescribed by the regulator. You do according to what you have done, what one of your brethren has done, what one of the other industries has done. Just try to emulate. All in terms of resource management, the water consumption, molasses consumption, power consumption. So this study, I was very fortunate. The World Bank had they made a poster out of that study. They invited me to Paris it was attended by almost 30 countries, EIA organized. I made a presentation on the entire, it is on the OECD website, this paper, on the, so, and then after 5 years again I took up and I tried to find out what was the advantage. So most of the industries had brought down their water consumption per unit capita. So it has been a very, then we also did one exercise with the CII where we rated industries into red, orange, green, and that aided in compliance. So now coming to damage. Legislation, the Air Act, the Water Act, and the EP Act, all these acts provide that if you are damaging the environment, you are liable to compensate for the damage. They are provided. This next point that I wanted to tell you, this MC Mehta Oleum case, this is very important. He says that the measure of compensation must be correlated to the magnitude and capacity of the enterprise. आपका इतना बड़ा इंडस्ट्री है और आपने इतना सा गलती किया तो फाइन इतना ही बड़ा आपको पड़ेगा. आपका इतना बड़ा इंडस्ट्री है, इतना बड़ा फाइन कर दिया तो आपको इतना बड़ा फाइन. This is what he meant, that it should be a deterrent. To allow it to be a deterrent, the enterprise is strictly and absolutely liable to compensate all those who are affected. The measure of compensation must be correlated to the magnitude and capacity of the enterprise because it must have a deterrent effect. Then the NGT in this particular case in 593 of 2017 said that the CPCB will take penal action for failure if somebody does not set up an effluent treatment plant and he's supposed to be setting up an effluent treatment plant, then the CPCB will take penal action. And it also said, and also recover compensation for damages. Now this judgment is very important. It introduces two concepts. One is penalty for non-compliance. I have no consent. I want an effluent treatment plant. I do not have an effluent treatment. That is penalty. The second component is CPCB may also assess and recover compensation for damage to the environment. The second thing is damage. Unfortunately, today, this line is very thin. CPCB, not exactly the CPCB, all the regulators, for that matter, are imposing compensation even for the first clause. Compensation, I am going on a bicycle or I am going on a scooter, I hit a bicycle और उसका हवा निकलता है, तो what is the compensation? हवा निकलना. If अगर हम उसका रिम टेढ़ा कर देते हैं तो compensation क्या है? रिम हम सीधा कर दें. But आँख बंद करके now 10 crores, 15 crores, 100 crores penalty is going without any assessment of the damage. And we have to be very careful as industry because there is no limit to which the NGT or the boards can go in imposing penalty. Absolutely no limit. 10 crore देख लिया, कुछ कर दिया. The boards, the CPCB and the state boards are imposing penalty, right? My perception is that the CPCB and the state boards are not authorized to impose any penalty. Why? It says that fines are provided. Fines are provided in the Act, but it says that the cognizance of the offence has to be taken by a court of law. So the CPCB can go, the State Pollution Control Board can go to court, complain, tell them this is being caused and we want you to impose a penalty of 5 crores of rupees. Then the court will impose that penalty. An officer of the Pollution Control Board, without issuing you proper notice, without following the procedure, just can't say, I went to your industry on such and such date, your BOD was 35, therefore a penalty of 5 crores of rupees. You can't do that. This is what this is very important when it comes to you, as an industry, when a notice for compensation comes to you, kindly find if these things have been followed or not. There has been a very recent change. They have come up with the Jan Vishwas Act 2003. I hope you are aware of. Now, this Jan Vishwas Act has amended the Air Act in terms of penalty and compensation. Here also, penalty, they say, has to be imposed by an adjudicating officer to be created at the government level. No board. Board will not impose the penalty. The adjudicating officer will impose the penalty. And unfortunately, in this act also, it speaks only of penalty. It does not speak of compensation. This Jan Vishwas also does not speak of that. Normally, the boards are utilizing powers under Section 5. You are aware of powers under Section 5. Section 5 of the EP Act provides powers to the central government and were delegated to the Central Pollution Control Board or the Chairman State Pollution Control Board to issue directions for closure, suspension of power supply and suspension of water supply. Now these provisions are being utilized for imposition of penalty, which of course I think there should not be. And of course it says that there is a need of a show cause notice. I've already highlighted the fact that how much? Just tell me how much time? 10 minutes. 10? I've already tried to highlight that penal action is for failure in setting up and maintaining STPs, and the second compensation is to assess and recover compensation. NGT Act makes a specific provision for penalty. Under Section 26, it says, if you are not complying with provisions, then you are liable to be penalized. That penalty is in fiscal terms, NGT can impose. Then under Section 15 and 17, it says compensation is for damage. Penalty is for non-compliance, compensation is for damage. This thing has to be very clear to us, because otherwise you get a environmental compensation for something which falls in the category of penalty. Then there is one very important thing that has to be noted, and that is if the river is getting polluted. If the river BOD is 500 milligram per liter or say 50 milligram per liter, then, and I have an industry, you have an industry, sir has an industry, all four of us will get a penalty of 5 crores of rupees. NGT says that if the pollution is being caused by 4 different sources or 10 different sources, then the damage has to be apportioned. आपने कितना किया, you कितना किया, हमने कितना किया, and the penalty should be concomitant to the damage that I am causing. This is not being done. Ganga is being polluted. There are 300 odd industries in Ganga basin. Everyone gets a no, चाहे वो छोटा electroplating unit हो, चाहे छोटा हो, चाहे बड़ा sugar plant हो, चाहे को, everyone has been imposed a penalty अभी in the Ganga के 5 crore rupees everyone. And for what? Where is this money going? And whose money? It is not my money. I am an industry. The penalty that I pay is not my money. It is the public's money. It is shareholders' money. Yeah. So anyway, so this has to be noted that whenever you get a notice for a penalty or compensation, you just try to analyze whether it is fit or not. Otherwise, go. There are appeals, there are appellate authorities. You make an appeal, tell them that I have not caused that pollution. I am only responsible for 5 milligram per liter of BOD. Then there's a in terms of environmental compensation, there is a violation committee, if you are aware of it. Environmental clearance, if you are aware of the term, environmental clearance is for a prior, it is to be taken prior to setting up a site. Now what has happened is that the ministry has come up, the ministry has come up with a notification which says that if you have not taken EC, then we will regularize that post facto. That notification now that violation notification also has both things. It has penalty and it has compensation. Penalty is 1% of the cost incurred or about 0.5% of the total turnover. Next slide में आप दिखाएंगे तो वो है. और compensation के लिए the violation committee says that you have to get an EIA done. You have to prepare a damage assessment report. Find out how much of damage has been caused because of you, not because of him. Because of you, and then you assess that, you put out the remediation costs and you submit that penalty, that compensation. Again, where and for what purpose, I don't know. The purpose actually should be that if there is a damage at that place of time because of me, then I should be asked to pay for remediating that damage there. Not that I should be asked to put it in the, they have an escrow account at the CPCB also, or the escrow account at the government level. उसमें आपने डाल दिया, then you can not take out your money, you cannot spend it for remediation ever. And I think there may be billions and billions of rupees lying with the pollution control boards and the as penalty. I have been in the department for 40 years, so I should be excused for that. Now, अभी क्या हो रहा है? SEIA, the State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority, they have also started imposing penalty. Why? No one has given them any authority. They have an authority under Section 5 of the EP Act. The chairman SEIA has an authority. But that authority is just to review the compliance of the EC granted by it and then either modify or cancel that EC. They cannot impose penalty. I go to for a violation case, and they are doing it. और सर बिल्कुल आप बताऊं कि 15 करोड़ 20 करोड़ आंख बंद करके जो साहब के मन में आया वो the CPCB the CPCB in compliance to the directions of the NGT, they have come up with the guidelines, and these are those guidelines, sir. The first 3 guidelines relate to non-compliance. They say if cases considered for levy of compensation, 6. One is discharge in violation of consent conditions. Second is not complying with directions. Third is intentional avoidance of data submission. Then the 4th to 6th are accidental discharges, intentional discharges, injection of. So where you are causing damage is the last 3 part. What the boards are doing is that they are assessing everything on this formula. This is again a CPCB formula for assessing damage. For defaults A to the first 3 defaults, non-compliant, they have EC is equal to PI into N into R into S into PI is the pollution index. रेड ऑरेंज ग्रीन जो कैटेगरी इंडस्ट्री बनाया है उसमें उन्होंने क्लासिफाई किया है 80 60 क्या रेड है क्या, तो दैट इज PI. N is the number of days, R is an arbitrary rate, S is the size and location factor. So these 5 things they have taken, and I also don't agree with it anyway. So I'll just change the slide now. So the PI again is PI is the water pollution score. Now they say the average for red category they are taking 80. Why are you? If I am an industry which fall in the 90 category, why are you giving me 80? And if somebody falls in the 60 category, why are you giving him 80? So it should be exactly, and all the industry scores are very well specified in the red, orange, green. Most of the 300 odd industry they are specified. Then why are you charging me on the potential to pollute? See, 80. I am a red category industry. That is my potential. That I am a polluting. You should charge me according to what I am discharging. If I am discharging 100 BOD and sir is discharging 200 BOD and both are distilleries, why is the same rate? He is damaging the import. So. Let me change it because time is short. This you'll get, sir, yes. And the minimum compensation is 5,000 rupees a day. Then they have said that this arbitrary factor, that R is a factor in rupee. That factor in rupee is 500. Who gave you the idea 500? Why not 250? Why not 1,000? And you are multiplying my compensation by 500 times. See, everything is into. For 500 times, you calculate something and you multiply it by 500 times. That is fast. मैं इसलिए बता रहा हूँ सर कि आपको कभी आए इस तरह का तो आप कम से कम जाइए ना. दे आर नॉट डेफ पीपल, रेगुलेटर इज ऑल अलाइव. तो आप अगर बोलोगे नहीं तो नो, व्हेन आई जॉइंड माय पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड in 1979, my first member secretary told me, Yashpal, if a child does not cry, the mother does not give milk. And he told me, first day he told me, whenever you want to say something, whenever you want something, you come to me. Don't just keep sitting. क्या वो गलत कर रहा है, गलत कर रहा है, गलत कर रहा है. गलत करना क्या, अपना बोलो तो सही क्या है. Tell him what is right. Minimum compensation is 5,000 as per this CPCB guideline. Minimum compensation is 5,000 rupees per day, 2 times on first repetition, 4 times on second, and 8 times on further. मतलब 5 करोड़, 10 करोड़, 20 करोड़, 25 हमारा पैसा. For the balance 3 compensation parts जो मैंने दिखाया था, CPCB has suggested that they will have an agency which will draw up guidelines, etc. They have not commented on the damage assessment part, at least in this guideline. But in 2022, recently, they have come up with this I am skipping this. These are the standard operating procedures for violation cases, where you have commenced 1% of the total project cost. Then if you have commenced operation without EC, that is 0.25% of the total turnover. So I am skipping these slides. You will have this with you there. Then the CPCB has come up with these guidelines in 2022. This is for damage assessment. This is a very good set of guidelines that has come up for damage assessment. And you have they have given a they have given a methodology. I'll just skip it fast because you can get it later. How do you calculate damage? Determination of environmental damage cost. Environmental damage cost is assessment cost plus cost of remediating. Assessment cost is also cost of this thing. Damages to environment ecology plus compensation for damages to environment and ecosystems. Then you have to identify the best achievable remediation and restoration methods and the cost based on this. Then how do you calculate? They've given us systems how to calculate in terms of air pollution. You have these models operating. Then you have the disability adjusted life year assessment. Then you have your value of statistical life analysis. These are methods available where you can calculate the damage. In terms of surface water also, they may be they may be conservative substances are those substances which do not degrade in water. So for conservative substances, they've got a separate method. For degradable, they have they study the decay. What is the decay of the pollutant, and then they find out. Then they have given how to estimate cost estimation to human health damage. And you got models for them. Then how to evaluate the cost of one fatality. एक आदमी मरता है तो उसकी cost क्या होगी? Evaluation of cost of affected person क्या है? Cost of damage to fisheries क्या है? Like कितना है? Economic loss due to damage of fishery is जैसे एक नदी में if the people are not able to fish, then what is the loss due to them? For example, that river stretch was giving 10 lakhs of rupees of fishes, and if it is not giving now any return, then those 10 lakhs of rupees into the number of days that we could not fish there. That is the environmental cost. एकदम बढ़िया है. ऐसे ही cost of recreation, cost of environmental property loss, damage, groundwater, soil, and thank you. This is one book that I have, it is in press. I think it should be within 10-15 days. This is on sugarcane and sugar, where I have, it's a 700 page book almost, and it has the biology, agriculture, manufacture, regulation, environment and pollution control, all in one, in 4 sections, where we have the ecology, biology, agriculture. One section we have the regulation, all these 30 sets of all your acts, all acts are applicable on sugar, we've given there. Then for environment, we have given the and pollution control, the air pollution management, water pollution management. So maybe 15 days I'll send you a copy. Thank you so much for